The camera would open on a shaky, rain-streaked shot, the kind filmed on a phone held by a terrified neighbor, as red and blue police lights strobe across the manicured lawns of Sycamore Bend. "You're making a scene, David," HOA President Brenda Harlan shouts, her voice sharp as shattered glass. Her designer raincoat beaded with water as she stands toe-to-toe with David Chun on his own soggy front lawn. David, a man usually defined by a quiet calm, is vibrating with a raw, desperate fury, holding up his smartphone to show the responding officers the damning evidence. A scene. "She had a camera in my son's bedroom window. 4 months. And you fined me for invasive vegetation when I tried to plant a goddamn privacy bush." One officer tries to de-escalate while the other directs a stone-faced woman in handcuffs into the back of a squad Brendas's best friend and next-door neighbor, Carol. This is where the documentary would begin, in the chaotic climax. But to understand how a quiet street in a pristine suburb became a Stage 4 criminal trespass and a community you have to rewind the tape 3 months. To the first time David Chun received a violation, notice that felt less like a correction and more like a declaration of war. It was early summer then, the air smelling of fresh-cut grass and ambition, the kind of neighborhood where every SUV was clean and every smile was just a little too tight. And David and his wife, Lena, had moved in for the schools, for the peace, for the promise of a safe, predictable life. A promise that began to curdle the day a single piece of paper, slipped into their mailbox by Brenda herself, informed them their azalea bushes were 2 inches, too tall, and constituted a public nuisance. Incurring a $50 fine, Brenda Harlan wasn't just the HOA president. She was its architect, its high priestess, a woman whose smile was a transaction and whose perfectly coordinated outfits seemed to be woven from the community esprit. She presided over the monthly meetings from the head of the community center as polished oak table like a queen holding court, her gavel a scepter. At first, David, an IT project manager who believed in systems and protocols, tried to play by the rules. He trimmed the azaleas, paid the fine, and even nodded politely when Brenda stopped by to suggest that the navy blue he'd painted his front door was verging on non-compliant charcoal. But the notices kept coming, each more absurd than the last. A faint water stain on the driveway from a sprinkler was devaluing property. A single cheerful garden gnome Lena's mother had gifted them was unapproved exterior decor. A trash can left at the curb for 2 hours past pickup was an attractant for urban blight. The fines piled up, and David's polite inquiries at meetings were met with a wall of bureaucratic condescension. "The covenants are clear, David," Brenda would say, her voice syrupy with faux sympathy. "We all sacrifice a little personal expression for the greater good of our property values." It was during one of these meetings, as David argued about a $200 fine for a persistently unkempt Lona single dandelion that he first noticed the dynamic. Anyone who questioned Brenda was met with a sudden mysterious spike in violations. The retired couple down the street who complained about the pool hours suddenly found their fence color non-compliant. The young family that asked for a speed bump had their basketball hoop deemed a structural hazard. Brenda's power wasn't just in the rulebook. It was in the silent, terrified compliance she cultivated, a web of control spun from fear and petty fines. The conflict escalated from a cold war to a hot one. The day David and Lena, a 7-year-old son, Leo, left his bright red bicycle on the front walk for an hour while he went inside for lunch. The violation notice was on their doorstep before the bike's kickstand had even cooled. But this one was different. It cited a persistent pattern of negligence and threatened not just a fine, but a lien on their house if the behavior continued. "This is insane," Lena whispered, her voice trembling as she held the paper. "She's talking about us like we're criminals." That's when David decided to fight back. He began attending every HOA meeting with a recorder, requesting financial documents, questioning the allocation of the steep annual fees. Brenda's demeanor shifted from condescending to openly hostile. "Some people see a community, David," she said to him in the grocery store parking lot, her voice low and devoid of its usual saccharine tone. "And others only see a conspiracy. Be careful which side you end up on." The intimidation was palpable, but the true turning point came when David Acton, on a tip from the retired couple, installed a discreet security camera facing his own backyard after someone keyed his car. He caught nothing on his car, but the camera did capture something else late one night. The shadowy figure of Brenda's friend Carol skulking along the property line, not just looking but documenting, taking close-up photos of a small, cracked patio tile with her phone. She's sending her spies, David realized with a cold dread. He immediately filed a formal complaint with the HOA board. But Brenda, of course, dismissed it. Carol is a dedicated member of the Neighborhood Watch, she stated at the next meeting, gaveling his complaint down. Your paranoia is noted, David, but filming your neighbors is a far greater invasion of privacy than ensuring covenant compliance. Feeling trapped and legally outmaneuvered, David sank his savings into a high-resolution, Motion-activated camera system, covering every angle of his property. He was no longer just trying to catch a vandal. He was building a case. For weeks, the cameras recorded only squirrels and passing cars, and the fines kept arriving, now targeting Lena's flower boxes for being an unapproved shade of terracotta. The pressure was fracturing their peace, their sense of safety. Then, one Tuesday evening, the alert came. Motion detected in the side yard, the narrow passage between his house and the fence separating him from Carol's property. David pulled up the live feed on his laptop, his blood running cold. It was Carol, but she wasn't just taking pictures of his property. She had a small stepladder, and she was placing it directly beneath Leo's bedroom window. A window whose blinds, David remembered with a sickening lurch, had broken that very morning. He watched, heart hammering against his ribs. As she climbed the ladder, phone in and its camera lens pointed directly into his son's room. He called the police immediately, his voice shaking with a primal rage, then ran outside, phone in and recording his own confrontation, just as the documentary would later show, leading to that rain-soaked, strublet climax on the front lawn where the whole carefully constructed illusion of Sycamore Bend finally shattered. The fallout was swift and merciless. Carol was arrested for voyeurism, and the subsequent police investigation uncovered a treasure trove of data on her phone, not just videos of Leo, but thousands of intrusive photos of other homes, all time-stamped and neatly organized in folders, many with notes that were clearly directives from Brenda. The district attorney got involved, and the documentary's climax would cut to the county courthouse, where Brenda, stripped of her pearls and poise, sat facing a judge, not on HOA violations, but on charges of conspiracy, harassment, and misuse of HOA funds. The financial audit David had triggered revealing a slush fund paid for by the very fines CD so liberally distributed. The HOA was placed under receivership. The board dissolved, and a class action lawsuit was filed by nearly every homeowner in Sycamore Bend. In the end, the truth, once unleashed, was a force more powerful than any bylaw, more absolute than any gavel. The final shot of our documentary would be a slow pan. Months later, across a profoundly changed neighborhood, David's door is now a defiant, vibrant crimson. Garden gnomes stand guard on dozens of porches, and a community garden, its plants gloriously, rebelliously overgrown, thrives in the common area where Brenda's perfect lawn sign once stood. The silence is no longer one of fear, but of hard-won peace. A testament to the fact that sometimes the most dangerous neighbors aren't the ones who break the rules, but the ones who weaponize them.